Hey guys, let's talk about the next characteristic of greatness. We've said first so far that we need to face the fact that this is not about us, it's about Him. We need to understand the power of playing second fiddle and fire that thing up and play it with all we've got and wait for God to do whatever He wants to do by way of elevating us, or if that's what He chooses to do. That'll be cruel. But God is drawn to those who have the humility to do just that. Now I want to tell you about we spoke yesterday about finding the forsaken, finding those who are outcast, rejected, and nobody gives them the time of day. That's a good thing for us to remember to do. And today we're going to focus on an example of that by saying we don't always want to hang out with people quite like us, do we? We want to hang out with those who are familiar, those who are like us, who think like us, look good, kind of look like us. And Jesus says, avoid that. Jesus said that's not always cool. And I love the picture that he paints for us on the call of Matthew. Matthew was a tax collector, for goodness sake. Anybody like tax collectors? In those days, they were abominable people. In those days, they were rejected. They had been forsaken by any potential friend. They were lonely. They were outcast. They had a lot of money because they ripped a lot of people off, but they were not familiar with the friendship that the other disciples enjoyed. And I just used my imagination to think what those disciples must have thought when they saw Jesus, and Jesus was accumulating his disciples, and he had Peter, James, and John, and a few others. And then probably one day in town, he's walking through town and he sees Matthew. Levi was his name, and he's collecting the taxes, sitting behind his table full of money. And he walks up to Levi and he says, "Hey Levi, do you want to follow me?" And the disciples are saying, "Jesus, what are you doing? Jesus, please don't call Levi. He's not familiar with us. We don't like him, and we don't want him as part of our group. Jesus, just hang with us. Call people who are fishermen like us. We don't really want him." And Jesus smiled and he said, "No, Levi, do you want to come and follow me?" Levi was shocked because he had for those so many years been one of the forsaken. And Jesus finds him. And Jesus invites him to follow him. Levi, it says, dropped everything he had. Didn't take any money. He just left his money on his table. He said, "Jesus, thanks for the invitation. I would love to follow you." That same Matthew is the one who wrote the Matthew Gospel, the one that's first book in our New Testament. And his testimony must have been phenomenal. How Jesus found him as one of the rejected, as one of the forsaken. Even though he had the means to be rich and proud, he was forsaken by people because of the status that he had chosen in life. But Jesus found him and invited him to follow him. And he responded well, and he did that. When we look at Jesus' inclusivity of who he follows, in the old days when we were kids, we were told to pick teams. And we'd choose two captains, and then we'd sit and we'd wait, and the little guys would sit and think, "I wonder when I'm going to be chosen. I wonder if he's going to choose me next. I really hope he is." And sadly, for many of us, we're the last to be chosen. But in Jesus' economy, he chooses the last first. We have people who kind of think sometimes that they need to do something. They need to be able to present themselves well. Apparently not. Jesus meets you where you are. He finds you where you are, and he invites you to follow him. Us believers, we need to find the forsaken. But if there's anybody out there today that feels, "Hey, I can identify with Matthew. I've kind of been rejected. I don't understand what's going on here," and find out that Jesus really loves you and wants you to follow him, and he has found you, and he invites you to do just that. I hope that becomes a truth and a reality for you in these days. And if that's you, then you know exactly what you need to do. God bless you guys. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.